pueda recoger el río con mis manos y guardarlo en mi boca, que su corriente me abra paso en la soledad del silencio, que los cilindros que se alzan en la frontera sean la zampoña que alabe al cóndor, y que si se ha olvidado al cóndor, mis alas sean la sombra que acaricia las dos patrias. Que la casa olvidada en el sur nunca apague su antorcha. Desde este nuevo hogar alcanzo a ver el humo de la nostalgia. Ese mismo humo me trae mariposas cada año y yo las sigo gritando papalotzin hasta que despierto. Que estos ojos dejen de ser ojos, que estas lágrimas ya dejen de ser lágrimas y que mi cuerpo entre el aire sea siempre frontera. Volver. My journey as an immigrant writer starts with a word, volver. In Spanish, it means to return, and it's a never-present word in the lips of an immigrant. I know this because volver sprouts on my skin like flowers that grow without water. I am an immigrant writer. I divide and I multiply myself in this land that offers so many opportunities, but at the same time, I long for my volver, my sweet return. As an immigrant writer, I've had a change in perspective 3 times, and I consider these changes the stages in the immigrant identity. When first arriving to the US, I was a visitor. I didn't need to immerse myself in this new culture or become part of the melting pot. My identity was defined. I was just visiting for a short period of time. In this first stage, I tried to maintain the purity of my identity, but I was always feeling like that spare piece when you finish puzzle. I couldn't relate to the people that surrounded me, and I would ease these feelings of confusion and loneliness by holding tight to my volver, my return. I tried to maintain the purity of my identity by refusing to become part of the mainstream society. I was always pushing and pulling until the strength to struggle just left my body, and I entered the second stage. Before admitting that I was far away from my desired homeland, of course, I was always looking for a place to belong. So I enrolled in the local community college, and this was the first time, the very first time that I genuinely embraced my situation. Not only was I an immigrant, I was an undocumented immigrant, and I didn't have time to negotiate the terms of this reality. It hit me dry and cold. Writing poetry really helped ease these feelings of confusion and loneliness. I was no longer a visitor. I was a resident. I became involved with many social groups that protested against unjust treatment of illegal immigrants, unfair wages, and other social issues. Deep inside my heart, I was still searching for a place to belong. Everyone has a place. Even though voicing my feelings through my poetry and my participation in these groups made me feel better, it never made me feel whole. I continued my education and received my bachelor's degree and continued with my master's degree. I became an advocate for education. My husband and I started a program that provided information to high school students on how to continue their education regardless of their legal status. For this work, I received the Gabriela Mistral Award, and something in me awakened. I discovered that my actions really made a difference. I discovered that I was intrinsically part of this society. I discovered that we define ourselves with our actions, not with a label. The third stage in my journey as an immigrant writer is the reconciliation. I continued with my doctoral studies. I provided creative writing workshops to the community. I was still a non-documented immigrant until the beginning of last year when I received a deferred action working permit. It was in August that I was able to return to my homeland. This return was filled with fear and excitement. You have to understand that I fear that having found a place in this new country meant that I didn't have my place in my homeland. In the month of August, when I returned, I found my place intact. What a beautiful feeling. Volver, in Spanish, means to return. And even though I will go back to Mexico many more times, for an immigrant, solamente vuelves una vez. We only return once. And it is in this return, in this reconciliation, that we discover the true richness of our identity. We are the sum of our experiences, our actions, and our passions. I was able to return to my homeland as a visitor, but I came back to the US because I have a place. I belong here. Soy de aquí y soy de allá. Gracias.